Jaya Givara Hari, Jaya Givara Hari, Jaya Yashodanandana, Jaya Manjana Jaya Jaya Manjana Ranjana, Jaya Manjana Ranjana, Jaya Yashodanandana, Jaya Manjana Ranjana, Jaya Manjana Ranjana. Jaya Yamuna Tiravani, Jaya Kunja Vihari, Jaya Yamuna Tiravani, Jaya Kunja Vihari, Ramuna Tiravani, Jaya Jaya Yamuna Tiravani, Jaya Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha, Jaya Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha. Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Dasi Hare, Jaya Rama, Jaya Dasi Hare, Jaya Dasi Hare, Jaya Rama, Jaya Dasi Hare. Jaya. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So today's the disappearance of Srimad Gupta, so we read a little about him. So it's also Sri Krishna's Shardiya Rasa Yatra, which is Lord Krishna's autumn rasa dance with gopis in Vrindavan. On this day, the deities of Vrindavan are nicely decorated in white and Krishna Lila dramas are enacted. So it's a formal day. This is very Srimad Gupta. Srimad Gupta, a disciple of Sri Chandrasekhar Acharya, possessed extraordinary humility. He had an intimate, lifelong relationship with Lord Chaitanya. Although senior in class, Murari Gupta would always lose in debates with Nimai Pandit. During one heated argument, they began pushing each other. The scuffle continued into the Ganges. They stirred up so much mud that the ladies couldn't fill their pots and the Brahmins couldn't bathe properly. At the nightly kirtans in Sriva Sangam, Murari Gupta pleased Gaurari with melodious chanting of the Bhagavatam. He would also sing and dance expertly. Murari Gupta served Sri Chaitanya in all his Nana leelas. It was his desire to leave his body before the disappearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but the Lord forbade him to do so. Lord Chaitanya exhibited his Viraha form in the house of Murari Gupta, and Murari offered his prayers in great ecstasy. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited his Mahaprakash form, he appeared before Murari as Lord Ramachandra. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu were sitting together in the house of Srivas Thakur, Murari Gupta first offered his respects to Lord Chaitanya and then to Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhu, however, was older than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and therefore Lord Chaitanya remarked that Murari Gupta violated social etiquette, for he should have first shown respect to Nityananda Prabhu and then to him. In this way, by the grace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Murari Gupta was informed about the position of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, and the next day he offered obeisances first to Lord Nityananda and then to Lord Chaitanya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu once gave chewed betel nut to Murari Gupta. Once Murari Gupta offered foodstuffs to Lord Chaitanya that was cooked with excessive ghee. And the next day the Lord became sick and went to Murari Gupta for treatment. Lord Chaitanya accepted some water from his pot, and thus he was cured. Lord Chaitanya once tested Murari Gupta's attachment to his worship of Lord Ramachandra. Lord Gaurasundra preached to Murari about the supreme sweetness and position of Rajendra Kumar, Krishna. Murari, just worship Krishna and take shelter of him. Nothing but his service can satisfy the mind. Although Murari Gupta became somewhat inclined towards Sri Krishna, the thought of losing Lord Ramachandra's association was devastated him. That night he prayed to Lord Ram to take his life. He asked for this, but because he couldn't stop serving Lord Ram, nor could he defy Sri Chaitanya's request. After he cried all night, Murari approached Lord Chaitanya and said, "What should I do? I have sold my head to the lotus feet of Lord Ramachandra. But if I break your order to worship Lord Shri Krishna, then what can I do?" Smiling, Gaurabai replied, "All glories to Murari Gupta. You are so fixed in your worship that even my request couldn't turn your mind. This is exactly the type of love and affection the servitor must have for the lotus feet of the Lord. Even if the Lord wants separation, a devotee cannot abandon the shelter of his lotus feet. Just to test your firm faith in your Lord, I repeatedly asked you to change your worship from Lord Ram to Lord Krishna. You are the incarnation of Hanuman, the eternal servant of Lord Ram. Therefore, why should you give up your worship of Lord Ram?" Another time, Lord Chaitanya showed his form as Lord Ramachandra with Janaki, Lakshman, and a host of monkeys reciting prayers. Seeing himself among those monkeys in his original form as Hanuman, Murari Gupta fainted. In Katwa, when Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, Murari stood by weeping like a child. And when Srimad Mahaprabhu moved to Jagannath Puri, Murari and his wife would come every year to relish the Lord's company. Sri Murari Gupta never accepted charity from friends, nor did he accept money from anyone. He practiced as a physician and maintained his family with his earnings. As Murari Gupta treated his patients, by his mercy both their bodily and spiritual diseases subsided. He could treat both bodily and spiritual disease because he was a physician by profession and a great devotee of the Lord in terms of spiritual advancement. Sri Murari Gupta belonged to the Vaidya physician family of Sri Hatta, the paternal home of Lord Chaitanya, and later became a resident of Vrinda of Navadvip. He wrote the first biography of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, an important Sanskrit work entitled Sri Chaitanya Charita Mahakavya. Shri Murari Gupta ki, Shri Vaishnavacharya's ki. So it's also Lakshmi Puja, the worship of Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune. And it's also the month of Damodar. So we remember the pastime of Madhishur abiding Lord Krishna. And the right is to sing the Damodar song every day and offer a candle or lamp to picture Krishna as Damodar. So I'm going to learn from Sheikh Prabhupada. Doesn't appear to be a monk in here.
It's the new chapter
Oh,
of
okay.
Karma.
So this is reading from Srila Prabhupada Limamrita at home in Vrindavan. At Bhaktisiddhanta Manas, Srila Prabhupada went from the car to a palanquin and entered the temple room where about 300 disciples and well-wishers were waiting to be with him. Devotees from all the ISKCON centers in northern and southern Europe had rushed to England on a last-minute notice. They were holding kirtan for Srila Prabhupada as he entered, and they too, like the devotees at the airport, were deeply shocked. And for a moment, when they saw Srila Prabhupada wearing his dark sunglasses, and appearing so thin, the kirtan almost stopped. Yet they simultaneously remained joyful and ecstatic, realizing that despite such difficulty, he had actually come to the West to be with them and to encourage their Krishna consciousness. They had been praying for him for months, the prayer, "My dear Lord Krishna, if you desire, please cure Srila Prabhupada," had been printed on a banner and hung over Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa. The devotees of England, wanting to reciprocate with Srila Prabhupada with more than just the sentiment of their words, were also leading the world in transcendental book distribution. When a few weeks ago they had heard that Srila Prabhupada might be coming to England, it hadn't seemed possible, considering his physical condition. They had heard he might leave his body at any moment, but then later they had heard he was better and he was coming to London. Even when they had heard he was definitely coming, they had been incredulous. But now it had come true. The dating room curtains were open and Srila Prabhupada beheld Radha Gokulananda. Some devotees stood in front of him and with a small gesture, characteristic of his hand, he waved them aside. Without any change of expression, he sat with concentrated attention facing the gorgeously dressed deities of Radha Gokulananda, whom he had named 4 years ago when calling for them to come and be worshipped here by the devotees of England. Without saying a word, Prabhupada went up to his room, where as many devotees as possible joined him. He had always said he felt comfortably at home in these quarters, and once again he was pleased to see outside his window the large lawn, the lake and the ducks. The devotees sat before him and with their palms folded, aware that this was no casual meeting. They had already offered their lives completely to Srila Prabhupada, and there was nothing more they could offer in words that would equal their dedication. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, text 17, chapter 17 and text 20. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Asatrishoya Pratibhatimaya. Shive Madhvans. Asatrishoya Pratibhatimaya.
Shoya Pratibhati Mayaya.
Shive Madhvans Savatamralochana.
Shibeva Madhva Sasvatam Radochana.
Nanagavatpo Rahana Ishadevya.
Nanagavadvo Rahana Ishireriya.
Yatpadayo Sparshanas Darshitendriya.
Yapadayo Sparshana Darshitendriya.
Asadrishoya Pratibhati Mayaya.
Sadrishoya Pratibhati Mayaya.
Shibeva Madhva Savatam Ralochana
Shibeva Madhva Asasvatamarochana
Nanagavadvo Rana Ishirehira
Nanagavadvo Ranaishiriya
Yatpadayo Spashana Darshitendriya
Yatpadayo Sparshana Darshitendriya
Asatrishoya Pratibhate Mayaya
Asadrishoya Pratibhati Mayaya
Shibeva Madhva Savatam Ralochana
Shibe Madhva Asavatamralochana
Nanagavadvo Rana Ishirehira
Nanagavadvo Ranaishiriya
Yatpadayo Spashana Darshitendriya
Yatpadayo Sparshana Darshitendriya Asadrishoya Pratibhati Mayaya Shibeva Madhva Asavatamralochana Nanagavadvo Ranaishiriya Yadapadayo Sparshana Darshitendriya Asadrishoya Pratibhati Mayaya Shibeva Madhva Asavatamralochana Nanagavadvo Ranaishiriya Yatpadayo Sparshana Darshitendriya
Asatrisha
Asadrisha
for a person with polluted vision.
for a person with polluted vision.
Ya
Ya
who Pratibhati
Pratibhati
appears.
appears.
Maya
Maya,
the influence of Maya.
the influence of Maya.
Shiva
Shiva,
one who is inebriated or angry.
one who is inebriated or angry.
Eva
Eva,
like
like
Madhu
Madhu,
by honey.
by honey.
Asava
Asava,
and liquor.
and liquor.
Tamralochana
Tamralochana,
having eyes reddish like copper.
having eyes reddish like copper.
Na
Na,
not
not.
Nagavadva
Nagavadva,
the wives of the serpent demon.
the wives of the serpent demon.
Arhane
Arhane,
in worshipping.
in worshipping.
Ishire
Ishire,
were unable to proceed.
were unable to proceed.
Priya
Riya,
because of bashfulness.
because of bashfulness.
Yatpadayo
Yatpadayo,
of whose lotus feet.
of whose lotus feet.
Sparshana
Sparshana,
by the touching.
by the touching.
Darshita
Darshita,
agitated.
agitated.
Indriya
Indriya,
whose senses.
whose senses.
Translation from Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Yeah.
The persons with impure vision, the Supreme Lord's eyes appear like those of someone who is indiscriminately drinks intoxicating beverages. Thus, bewildered, such unintelligent persons become angry at the Supreme Lord, and due to their angry mood, the Lord himself appears angry and very fearful. However, this is an illusion. When the wives of the serpent demon were agitated by the touch of the Lord's lotus feet, due to such shyness, they could not proceed no further in their worship of him. Yet the Lord remained unagitated by their touch, for he is proposed in all circumstances. Therefore, who will not worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Anyone who remains unagitated even in the presence of cause for agitation, is called dhira, or equiposed. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being always in a transcendental position, is never agitated by anything. Therefore, someone who wants to become dhira must take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 2.13, Krishna says, Dhira tatra namuyati. A person who is equiposed in all circumstances is never bewildered. Prahlad Maharaj is a perfect example of a dhira. When the fierce form of Nrsimhadev appeared in order to kill Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad was unagitated. He remained calm and quiet, whereas others, including even Lord Brahma, were frightened by the features of the Lord. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivas Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, by the mercy of the devotees, I'm sitting here, and by the mercy of hope that they, by the blessings, I can say something of interest or upliftment or some realization. So I'll read the translation again. For persons with impure vision, the Supreme Lord's eyes appear like those of someone who indiscriminately drinks intoxicating beverages. Thus bewildered, such unintelligent persons become angry at the Supreme Lord, and due to their angry mood, the Lord himself appears angry and very fearful. However, this is an illusion. When the wives of the serpent demon were agitated by the touch of the Lord's lotus feet, due to shyness, they could perceive no further in their worship of him. Yet the Lord remained unagitated by their touch, for he was equiposed in all circumstances. Therefore, he will not worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, we're reading Lord Swasadaman's Lord Shiva's offering prayers to the Lord. And so Prabhupada's focusing on the word dhira and how one who's equiposed, even when provoked in the situation where the provocation is there. So what there's first of all, like in the verse, is described persons with impure vision. So this can be taken as people who have a view to enjoy. Their purpose is to enjoy sense gratification. So their vision is coloured by that. So they may see the Lord as a threat to their sense gratification, so thus they become angry. And the Lord, they perceive the Lord as being angry and very fearful. So this is contrasted by the mood of Prahlad Maharaj, who's had a mood of devotion towards the Lord, servant attitude. So in this way, he remained calm and affected by the attempts of his father, Kashipu, to kill him. So on the bodily conception of life, one experiences illusion, envy, anger, fear, thirst, and so on. Whereas devotee, absorbed in the service of the Lord, he just sees the service and his goal to please him. His mind is fixed on serving the Lord for his pleasure. He's not concerned about his own convenience or inconvenience. So in this way he can remain calm. There's that pastime of Srila Prabhupada when during the war and there were bombs dropping in Calcutta and people were diving for the shelters and so on, but Prabhupada remained sitting at the table taking his prasadam. He wasn't disturbed, and he said his mood was, if Krishna wants to kill me, no one can save me. If Krishna wants to save me, no one can kill me. Does anyone know the Sanskrit for that?
Rakhi Krishna Mare Krishna Rakhi ke.
So in this way, the devotees are faithful. He sees, yeah. So we're in the material world, and where there's danger at every step. And so the mood of a devotee is that of, it's like being in a kitten in a cat's mouth, whereas someone who's, as Prabhupada says, with impure vision or demoniac or attached to the body or just wants to enjoy and control and so on, then his position is like that of a rat inside the cat's mouth. So the kid feels secure because he's considering that his mother is taking care of him. The kid feels the teeth as a means of protection, whereas the rat, the teeth there like impending death. So in this world, as I say, it's danger at every step. So the devotee, as said in previous, or throughout the Bhagavatam, that how one must take shelter of the Lord, lotus feet of the Lord. Otherwise, the forces of the senses take over. And by taking shelter of the Lord, staying in the material world is limited. And at least where we are by continuing to practice and endeavour, and on this path, then we're protected from the most dangerous type of fear, which is an animal birth. In the realm of environment of where just eating, sleeping, mating, and defending are there. This is animal life, so persons whose purpose in life only reaches that far, then there is danger at every step, and there's always some fear or anxiety, like the spiritual realm is called Vaikuntha, where it's free from anxiety, whereas the mature world is Kunta, full of anxiety. Krishna says it's always temporary and full of miseries. So in this way, if that's all we know, this body and this world, then naturally we're full of anxiety and fear. But what we experience in Krishna consciousness is at least a relief from that. And as we go on, we experience, Krishna puts us in different situations to help us overcome different, conquer over sources of anxiety and distress or fear. So that we become strong, and our faith in Krishna becomes deep in that sense that we come to a point where whatever happens, we know it's the arrangement of Krishna, and his protection will always be there. As he says in the Gita, I will protect you, do not fear, just surrender unto me. So this may be a bit confusing when we see how devotees get attacked and so on. But the attacks come external in the form of there's the different sufferings of this world. So they're classed into three. Can anyone name them? So, John? The three types, the sufferings of the material world are classed into three.
The sufferings are caused by natural phenomena, the stress that's caused by the living entities, and the stress that's caused by the mind.
Yeah, so the natural phenomena, natural disasters, or like the air crashes is included in that category and so on. And which is, what's the Sanskrit for that? Do you remember the Sanskrit?
Adi Bhautik is by natural phenomena.
Adi.
Bhautik.
You sure? Adi Devik is what's understand?
Adi Devik, sorry, is natural phenomena, and
Adi Devik, yeah.
Natural phenomena. Then Adi Adhyatmika is by self, owns mind and body, and Adi Bhautik is by other living entities.
Adi Bhautik is other living entities. So, this we can be afflicted in this to suffer in these different ways. So, I've lost my train of thought now. Yeah, so with the devotee knows this is the arrangement of the material energy to inflict suffering or cause some enjoyment in this world. So he knows it's not in control, and how as the spirit soul, he's not affected. So in the face of death, he can be equiposed because he knows that he's not going to die as the spirit soul. So this is the realization we have to come to, in that we know that we're eternal spiritual beings, that our happiness or doesn't depend on our contact with matter, but our absorption is centered in our absorption in our relationship, loving relationship with the Lord. And as we constantly endeavour to interact in that relationship, to reciprocate the Lord's mercy, then we'll come across with tests that will help us to pass the final exam. So if you find yourselves disturbed by something, then it's only Krishna showing us that that's something we need to address and to adjust our vision so that we can not be disturbed. So it said how the devotee sees through the eyes of Shastra. So we can look to Shastra and those who speak it to find the solutions to all problems. And in this way, we can experience that progress, and as the Lord reciprocates, we get glimpses of the nectar for which we're always anxious. Because as the Lord is pleased, He's in our hearts, so we experience that pleasure. So the devotees' opulences are within. We can demonstrate how, how good we are at something, or take pride in all sorts of things, but this is external, and it's not something that the devotee delights in, because he knows it could threaten his Krishna consciousness, and if one becomes intoxicated, because pride is like an intoxication. It makes us blind, it makes us deaf. Like Ravan, he was given so much counsel from all different sources: family, his wife, his brother, devotee brother, how to not take Sita. I heard how, because you know that Ravan has 10 heads, and each one is for some particular purpose. One is the intelligence ones, and so on. I can't remember. But one of them is his original one. His only one was illusion. So the 9 heads told him not to take Sita, but said this one head said to take her, so he listened to that and went ahead. So, and he thought he was invincible, so he thought nothing could touch him. So this is the nature of pride, that it makes us feel that we're entitled to anything. So this is a very dangerous consciousness to allow ourselves to become, adopt, because this it puts us in a mood of thinking we're the controller, we're the enjoyer, and we can satisfy anyone. We have everything at our disposal. We're the supreme. So the devotee guards against this mentality by association with devotees, that he can get their feedback on how they're doing with their Krishna consciousness, so that, because it's not so easy to see ourselves when we're at. But it behooves us to be introspective, and also by chanting the holy names, we're calling out to Krishna to please protect us. And Prabhupada would come before the deities, and he would offer prayers, and devotees asked what was he praying for, and he said that I'm praying that I'll never fall down. And the devotees were amazed. Prabhupada, there's no question of him falling down. And Prabhupada said, yes, because I'm always praying that I'll never fall down. So in this way, the devotee never considers himself free from the influence of the material energy. He's conscious that he's in an insignificant spark of spiritual energy and that he can be overcome by Maya at any moment. So conscious that there is danger at every step. So the devotee, the first danger is within the mind. If the mind is taken into a path or course away from Krishna, then the devotee then, if he's astute and introspective, at that moment he can pull himself back on track. But generally the rule is the school of hard knocks. So Krishna puts us into situations where it can help us see more graphically how if we're deviating in any way, or how we are deviated and how to put us on the track. Because we have so many lifetimes of material conditioning behind us, so there's a lot of work to be done in purifying the heart and mind. So Krishna was very merciful to come himself in the form of Lord Chaitanya and then sent his representative, Srila Prabhupada, to give us all tools that we need to be able to be successful on this path. So I'll stop there to any questions or comments and corrections.
One question. So you mentioned like in the midst of difficulty, when there were some bombings going on, Prabhupada wasn't deterred or disturbed, and he was peacefully having his prasadam and carrying on with his usual schedule. So we are experiencing this pandemic time, COVID time. Is there a need for us to check all these things, or should we not check and carry on with our preaching program and our stuff?
Well, the criteria is whatever's best for our service to Krishna. We don't want anything to endanger that. So whatever we see as helpful, we'll take. Favorable for that, we'll take. And what we see as unfavorable, we'll reject. Does that answer your question? For some, it may be different. It may be different for each person, so it's up to the individual to decide for themselves. It's not that we have the right to decide for others, but we can advise according to what we see as best. But then the final decision comes with the individual.
Thank you. Yeah. Another question. In translation, it says, when the wives of the serpent demon were agitated by the touch of the Lord's lotus feet. So, who are these wives? Who is the serpent demon being referred in the translation?
I was thinking I don't have a clue. The only serpent demon I know is Kalina, but I don't remember any pastime of Lord touching them. I'm not sure unless it's, I'll just be speculating, so I don't know.
Because if I read the whole sentence, it says, when the wives of the serpent demon were agitated by the touch of the Lord's lotus feet, due to shyness, they could proceed no further in their worship of him. So it suggests like they were actually worshipping the Lord, and Lord happened to touch the wives. And
I'm not sure, maybe referring to a pastime, I can't say which it could be. That can be our homework to find out. Any other questions or comments?
So, again, in translation, it says, thus bewildered, such unintelligent persons become angry at the Supreme Lord. And due to their angry mood, the Lord himself appears angry and very fearful. However, this is an illusion. So, how is it illusion in the sense, if you could please explain, that doesn't the Lord become angry and isn't he angry and fearful? And if that is the thing, then can I have this leverage to do something and Lord won't be angry and fearful?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
So in the translation, it says that, however, this is an illusion. The Lord, the Lord Himself appears angry and very fearful. However, this is an illusion. So, if you could explain how is this an illusion? Doesn't the Lord really become angry and say very fearful?
Well, Prabhupada gives the example of Lord Nrsimhadev. The demigods considered him, looked at him and thought he was very fearful. But to Prahlad Maharaj, because his eyes were anointed by the salve of love, then he was fearless. He was wanting to give him a garland.
So is it fair to say that the Lord was both angry and fearful, or was he just not angry? Because if I see from the demigod's perspective, is there an element of truth there?
Yeah, he could appear angry, but because Prahlad knew the heart of the Lord, then he knew there was no reason to fear. That's as far as my understanding goes. He knew the Lord to be his well-wisher, whereas the demigods, they're always fearful of their devotees, but they're kind of attached. So that's why they pray for the Lord to appear to protect them and their what they're attached to. They become fearful if it looks like the Lord is losing. But the devotee knows that the Lord will always be victorious in battle. So does that answer it?
Okay.
Or anything else you'd like to add? You can say like, if you know someone who's a really nice person, but they're kind of becoming angry so we must find, then we have to see past the anger and see, well, maybe there's something there, like maybe pain or upset about something or whatever this very great. Anyway, we know the heart of the person, so we go beyond that. Like if a devotee is angry and so on, devotees are dear to the Lord, so we can't react in a way that's kind of retort in a kind of a way that's unfavorable. We also have to be careful to react in a way that facilitates Krishna consciousness for ourselves and for the other person, and not act under them, influence them to the modes of material nature, because then we haven't passed the test. We're not they'll become dearer.
Just if I can share one thing. So in Ramayana, in the battle between Lord Ram and and Ravana, so those who were on the side of Ravana, they were seeing Lord Ram and they were whispering or mentioning to each other and all that look how cruel he is, Ram. He looks so gigantic and so cruel and like a thunderbolt, so harsh. And those who were literally on the side of Ravana, they were saying Ram is very hard. And the monkeys on the side of Lord Ramchandra, they were seeing Lord Ramchandra and they were speaking amongst each other, look how soft our Lord is, look how kind he is, look at his glow in his face, and he's so delicate and soft. Oh, why is he in the battle? And look, he's in the battle and he doesn't. So that was the thing that those on the side of Ravana, they were saying Lord Ram is very hard, and those who were on the side of Lord Ram, the monkeys and others, everyone, they were saying Lord Ramchandra is the softest of the soft.
Yeah. According to the relationship, and that's how they feel love. So we better stop there. So thank you for your attention and participation. And Vajra Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Vrinda ki
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai. Hari Hari Bol. Har Vrinda Devi Dasi.
Jai.